Some rivalries in combat sports are simple. Two fighters meet, one wins, one loses, and the story ends there. But some rivalries feel different. They feel emotional, personal, and almost like a movie. That is exactly what happened between Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira. This is not just a UFC rivalry. It is a story that started in kickboxing, moved into MMA, and changed both fighters forever. How did two men from different paths end up shaping each other's careers? Why do fans still talk about their fights with so much excitement? And what makes this rivalry feel so special even today? To understand that, we have to go back to the very beginning of their journey. If you enjoy deep MMA stories like this, make sure to like the video and subscribe to Iron Fist MMA for more powerful fight breakdowns. Chapter 1: Two Very Different Paths. Israel Adesanya did not grow up in a fighting gym or a strict combat sports family. He was inspired by martial arts, movies, and the dream of becoming a champion. He first started with kickboxing because he loved movement, style, and skill. His fighting style was built on creativity, timing, control, and smart movement. His goal was simple: become one of the best strikers in the world. On the other side, Alex Pereira had a very different life. He grew up in a tough environment in Brazil and faced many struggles. He did not have an easy path in school and later worked difficult jobs just to survive. At one point, he also dealt with alcohol problems before fully focusing on fighting. He entered kickboxing not for fame, but to change his life. Two very different journeys, two different mindsets, but both were slowly moving toward the same future collision that would change combat sports forever. Chapter 2: The Kickboxing Beginning. Before stepping into MMA, both Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira became elite kickboxers in Glory Kickboxing, one of the highest levels of stand-up fighting in the world. This is where their story truly began. They fought each other twice in kickboxing. In their first fight, the match was very close and competitive. Both fighters had strong moments. Adesanya showed sharp movement, speed, and smart striking. Pereira responded with heavy pressure and powerful shots. It was a fight that could have gone either way, depending on how judges scored it. The second fight changed everything. Pereira landed a powerful left hook that knocked Adesanya out. It became one of the most famous moments in kickboxing history. At that time, it was just another fight in their careers. No one knew it would grow into a long-term rivalry that would later continue in MMA and shape both of their futures. Chapter 3: The Shift to MMA. After his kickboxing loss, Israel Adesanya made a big decision. He fully moved into MMA, and it worked out very well for him. He quickly rose through the UFC by beating top-level fighters with his striking skills, movement, and confidence. Over time, he became the UFC middleweight champion and one of the most popular fighters in the sport. His victories over elite names like Robert Whittaker and Anderson Silva helped build his reputation as one of the best strikers in MMA history. Meanwhile, Alex Pereira stayed in kickboxing longer and became a champion in multiple weight divisions. He proved himself at the highest level of stand-up fighting. But later, Pereira also made the move into MMA, and when that happened, everything changed again. Their paths, once separated, started moving toward another collision inside the UFC, setting up a rivalry that fans were waiting for without even fully realizing it yet. Chapter 4: The Callout That Started Everything. In interviews, Israel Adesanya sometimes talked about Alex Pereira and their history in kickboxing. He mentioned how their past fights were still connected and not fully finished in his mind. Pereira noticed these comments and responded in his own way. That is when fans started to realize something bigger was forming. This was not just random talk between fighters. It felt like a storyline slowly building over time. It was no longer just about two athletes competing in different sports. It became two careers that were clearly linked, moving toward another important moment that fans knew would eventually happen inside MMA. Chapter 5: Pereira Enters the UFC. When Alex Pereira entered the UFC, many fans were unsure what to expect. He had serious knockout power, but MMA is very different from kickboxing. with wrestling and ground fighting also playing a big role. Still, he made a strong and fast impact. He won his early UFC fights and quickly started climbing the middleweight rankings. His striking stayed just as dangerous as before, and opponents had to respect his power at all times. As he kept winning, fans began asking an interesting question. Was this all leading back to another fight with Israel Adesanya inside the UFC? Chapter 6. The First UFC Collision. Eventually, the UFC made the fight happen. UFC 281 became the stage for the first MMA meeting between Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira. Adesanya was the champion going into the fight. Pereira was the challenger. Most fans believed Adesanya would win because of his MMA experience, movement, and strong defensive skills. For most of the fight, Adesanya was in control. He was managing distance well, landing clean strikes and staying ahead on points. It looked like he was on his way to another title defense. But MMA is never finished until the final moment. In the fifth round, Pereira changed everything. He landed a strong striking combination that led to a finish. He became the new UFC middleweight champion. The fighter who once defeated Adesanya in kickboxing had now done it again in MMA, creating one of the biggest moments in UFC history. Chapter 7. The Rematch and Redemption. Because of their shared history, a rematch between Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira made perfect sense. It took place later in the UFC at UFC 287, and it became one of the most important moments in their rivalry. This time, Adesanya made smart changes. He stayed calm, did not rush, and waited for the right moment to strike. When the opening came, he landed a perfect counterpunch and knocked Pereira out, winning back the UFC middleweight title. After this fight, the rivalry was tied in MMA at 1-1. Pereira still had his famous kickboxing win, and Adesanya had now answered him inside the UFC. Kickboxing, Pereira won. MMA, both fighters had one win each. The story became balanced, with neither fighter clearly dominating the other, making their rivalry even more interesting and complete. Chapter 8. The move to light heavyweight. After the rematch, Alex Pereira moved up to the light heavyweight division. He quickly found success again using his striking power to beat top opponents. Soon after, he became champion in that division as well, making him a two-division UFC champion in a very short time. This achievement kept his connection with Israel Adesanya alive in the eyes of fans. Even though they were in different weight classes, people still talked about their history and rivalry. Fans kept asking the same question over and over. Will they fight again? That uncertainty kept their story alive and made their rivalry one of the most talked about in modern MMA. Chapter 9, more than just fights. What made the rivalry between Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira so special was not just the fights, but the story behind them. It started in kickboxing and followed them into MMA. Two fighters with very different backgrounds ended up shaping each other's careers across two sports. Sometimes Adesanya looked like the hero, using skill and movement to outsmart his opponent. Other times, Pereira looked like the unstoppable force, bringing heavy pressure and knockout power. As wins and losses changed, their roles also changed. This shifting dynamic made fans emotionally connected because it felt like a real story unfolding over time, not just two fighters competing. Chapter 10. Respect between rivals. Over time, something important changed between Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira. Their rivalry slowly became less hostile and more respectful. Both fighters started recognizing what they had done for each other's careers. Pereira pushed Adesanya to improve his striking, timing, and patience. At the same time, Adesanya helped bring Pereira into global MMA, attention by being a key part of his rise in the UFC. Even after intense fights and knockout moments, they showed respect toward each other. There was no real hate or personal conflict outside the cage. Instead of acting like enemies, they began to see each other as elite competitors who helped shape each other's journeys. Their rivalry turned into something rare in combat sports, a competitive relationship where both fighters actually grew because of each other, both in skill and legacy. Chapter 11. Why this rivalry feels different. Many UFC rivalries are built on trash talk, anger, or personal hatred between fighters. But the rivalry between Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira is different. It is built on real history, real skill, and perfect timing. It also comes from growth, because both fighters changed and improved because of each other. Most importantly, it is built on mutual respect that developed over time. This rivalry is rare because they faced each other in two different combat sports, starting in kickboxing and later meeting again in MMA. Inside the UFC. Even rarer is the fact that both fighters reached the highest level in both sports, becoming champions and top stars. That is what makes this story stand out. It is not just about competition or conflict. It is about two careers crossing paths again and again, creating a rivalry that feels unique in combat sports history. Conclusion: the rivalry between Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira is not just about wins and losses. It is about how two fighters became connected forever through their journey in combat sports. It started in kickboxing, then moved into MMA, and along the way it created champions, unforgettable moments, and fights that fans still talk about today. But what makes this story so special? Why do people still discuss it like it is something bigger than sport? And how did both fighters push each other to become better? No matter what happens next in their careers, one thing is clear. This is not just a rivalry. It is one of the most complete and emotional stories in combat sports history. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like the video and subscribe to Iron Fist MMA for more deep MMA stories and legendary fight breakdowns.